Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I have with me another very special guest, Michelle Roshnazamir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. It's so lovely to speak with you about this subject that I love so much. So, can you introduce yourself, please?
So my name is Michelle. I am a consultant and producer working in Los Angeles, California. And a lot of the core of what I do is working with creatives and leaders to bring their ideas to life and develop their businesses. And yeah, just because having the support to be able to like the support and the strategies to develop what you're working on is totally achievable. It does not have to be scary or overwhelming. That's why I'm here to help. Um, but so with what I'm doing, like with what I'm doing now and how it all got started, I it this all got started when I was in college. I was an art school student who very much scoffed at the business side of things. Like, I'm like, who needs it? Why? Despite the fact that it's a strength of mine and an interest with management, and I was really getting into doing more on the producing side. But I knew I wanted to go to grad school. I ended up taking off a couple of years, and it was great. Got a chance to have a break from school, and ended up going to grad school doing a dual business and arts degree. I'm like, great! I get the business side, I get the art side. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
And you're doing both programs simultaneously over 3 years. And I was also working. It was fun. It was really busy. But with and while I was a student, though, I towards the end of that dual program, I decided to drop the MFA. It was a difficult decision to make at the time, but it was one of the best things I could have done for myself. I was able to continue being able to take more classes and meet people, and I don't know if I would have necessarily had the chance to otherwise. And it's also stuff I'm still using today, several years out. Um, while my experiences in school were great and it was very informative, I was also working outside of that and since wrapping up grad school. And a common thing I kept seeing, which in some ways has its roots even when I was in college, of creatives and leaders great at the idea stuff. Like there's so much that they want to do, but they often need help with like the making it happen part, or like the business side of things, just because we're not always taught that, and it doesn't have to be scary and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. um, but that was the impetus behind starting my own company in the latter part of 2019. It's called MVR Creative, and it's working at the intersection of stories, creativity, and business.
Yeah. So, when you work with a client, a potential client, and you have a work plan set out, shall we say, or a business plan for the small business or um, or something similar uh, on the creative side. So how does it actually look working side by side with you?
Um, so a lot of what I'm offering is typically working with you one on one. And it's also, yeah, well, there's some structure behind it. It's just as much seeing where you're at with whether it's for your business or project or whatever you want to work on. I'm here to work through all of that with you. And, I spend my time helping and working with others, reading books, keeping up to date so I can kind of can help you work through all of that in a way that makes sense for you.
Mm.
um, and some of it, a lot of what I do is strategy development and implementation. It's also like I do things around like figuring out like the monies side of things, so like things like fundraising to grant writing, especially for like individual creatives
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
nonprofits. So and that's one thing that I will help you with that looks a little different, but I'm still working with you to support you throughout that entire thing, so you can kind of keep doing what you're great at, and I can show up and help you and give you the best chance to succeed in whatever you're working on.
Yeah. So having been on both sides of the aisle, shall we say, of the business side and the creative side, which do you prefer better?
I don't, I don't know if there's strictly one side of it that I prefer over the other, just because there is a lot of creativity in what I do. It just might look a little different than, having like a photograph or a piece of theater or a film. Like there's still aspects of creativity that will go into getting that stuff done. Um, it's just as much same thing with like a marketing campaign even. Like there's elements of that creativity that go into a lot of that, but but I understand that creative side of things, which just makes it like I'm super excited to be able to, like let's figure this out together and move forward, just because I'm all for working with you to on whatever you're working on, just because and typically makes it so much more fun and so much more enjoyable. Like
Yeah,
I'm on your team and want to help you make it all a reality.
yeah. So, can you tell me one experience that you would consider the best experience that you had while working uh, on the business side of creativity?
I can probably have a handful of stories to share at this point. Um, there's woman I've worked with a couple of times on some grants out here. She runs a theater company out in the greater LA area. That like she is a trooper. She's been around for 2 decades and she has one hell of a story. But I was working with her. I initially started, this was back like last year in 2020. Like there's a bunch she was looking forward to doing. The pandemic hit in the midst of us working together, but I was able to, help her secure a chunk of funding through some grants, so she can literally keep
Yeah,
doing the work
yeah,
that she's doing,
nice.
which is fantastic, because there is also a certain degree of like uncertainty if you're gonna get the grant, depending on how competitive it is. But like it's that moment of like, hey, let's like figure out what you're doing and get this language
Yeah,
at the point where it's going to give you your best shot at getting this, which is always, when hearing the news back was always great. This was like also another one that it was a bit before the pandemic, but had worked with a writer actor friend of mine to produce a play of his, which was like literally like it was small. We're looking now to kind of potentially do more with it, but it was a chance meeting with the guy, and it was probably one of the funnest shows I've worked on, and ended up becoming a very fruitful relationship
nice,
because
nice.
we were like, look, we took care of all of the logistics with like fun from like raising some funds through promoting to getting butts and like, look, from like strictly from like a numbers and business standpoint, it was successful. We were well on the block,
Yeah,
but like
yeah, yeah.
it was a lot of fun. And
Mm.
and it's just like, and that's part of it. Like, look, we'll take care of the business side, but it's just as much of like, let's work together to
Yeah,
make this
yeah, yeah.
happen. And like,
Business and pleasure. Yeah.
yeah, because like, look, I figure if we're able to, if you can get up and get paid to go play every day, isn't that kind of the dream? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Yeah,
finding
but you
creative.
need to start as a waiter first. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like, look, yeah, like sometimes, like, look, there is an aspect of still needing to make sure that like you have money coming in, and sometimes I might be working as a waiter, but doesn't always have to be the case. Like sometimes, like depending on what you're doing, there's more than one way to have money coming in and having a certain degree of like passive income. Just it depends on where you're at and what you're offering and how you're setting things up.
Yeah. So I think we'll do a nice short tidbit, and we'll pick it up in a later on. I think. What do you think?
That works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
here to
you.
help. I'm here, and
Yeah,
it's
me too. I'm here also. So.
and it's
Yeah.
just as much, I'm always up for continuing the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Because we need to focus a little more. So thank you so much, Michelle. It
Thank
was
you.
lovely speaking with you, and I think we'll speak in much more uh, in less brevity and more longevity in the future,
Yeah,
shall we say? Yes.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.